What I'm about to tell you in the next few minutes has been buried for decades. Not because it doesn't work, because it costs $15. Write that down, $15. And it works better than the melatonin you've been swallowing every night that still leaves you staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning. I know that's you. Because if it wasn't, you'd have already clicked away. So stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you're going to understand something about your own body that your doctor has never once explained to you. And tonight is going to be different. Let me paint you a picture. It's 2:47 in the morning. Your eyes fly open, and your brain immediately shifts into fifth gear. Not groggy, not half awake, completely, infuriatingly wide awake. The grocery list, the argument from last Tuesday, something embarrassing you said at a party in 1996. Your mind just throws it all at you at once. You try the breathing thing, you try counting, you flip your pillow to the cold side. You check your phone even though you know you shouldn't. 3:14, 3:42, 4:09. You finally manage to doze off around 5, and your alarm goes off at 6:30. You peel yourself out of bed, pour yourself the first of several coffees, and spend the entire afternoon barely keeping your eyes open. Then 8 o'clock hits, and you're wide awake all over again. And this has been your life for years. If that's you, I need you to keep watching right now, because what comes next is not something you have ever heard from a doctor, a pharmacist, or off the shelf at any supplement store. There is a seed, a completely ordinary edible seed that you can pick up for under $15. And it has been used to treat insomnia, anxiety, and what ancient physicians called nervous exhaustion for over 3,000 years. They found this seed inside the tomb of King Tutankhamun, the greatest physician of the medieval world. A Persian doctor named Avicenna wrote about it in the 11th century in a medical textbook that guided doctors across Europe and the Middle East for 600 years straight. And here is what is remarkable. In the last 20 years, modern science has started proving exactly why it works. 1 teaspoon of this seed, taken correctly, at the right time, can do more for your sleep than melatonin, valerian root, and magnesium tablets all taken together. By the time this video ends, you will know exactly what it is, the precise protocol for how and when to take it, and the warnings that nobody is going to volunteer to you. Before I go further, hit subscribe and like this video. This channel is working toward 100,000 subscribers, and every single person here is part of that. Now here is what the conventional medical world has told you. Insomnia after 60 means low melatonin. Take a pill, sleep comes back. And honestly, that is not completely wrong. Your melatonin production does drop significantly with age. By your 70s, your brain is producing roughly half the melatonin it made when you were 20. So the logic makes sense on the surface. Take what your body is no longer making. Problem solved. Except for most people over 60, that is not how it plays out. You have probably already figured that out the hard way. Here is what actually happens inside your body. Melatonin is not the beginning of your sleep process. It is the very last step of a long chain of reactions. And if the earlier steps in that chain are broken, taking melatonin at the end is like pouring fuel into a car with no working engine. The fuel is there, and it still does not start. Here is how that chain is supposed to work. First, an amino acid called tryptophan from your food has to travel from your bloodstream up into your brain. Second, your brain converts that tryptophan into something called 5-HTP. Third, 5-HTP becomes serotonin, the neurotransmitter that creates that calm, settled, everything is okay feeling. Fourth, when darkness falls, your brain converts serotonin into melatonin. Fifth, and finally, melatonin signals your body to enter deep sleep. Your cortisol drops, your body temperature falls, and you go under. 5 steps. And after 60, that chain snaps in 3 different places at once. Tryptophan stops absorbing as efficiently from your food because stomach acid declines with age, and you need that acid to break down protein properly. The enzymes that do the converting in steps 2 and 3 depend on magnesium, vitamin B6, and zinc to function, and the majority of American adults over 60 are deficient in at least one of those. And then there is cortisol. Your stress hormone is supposed to drop to its lowest point in the middle of the night, but in many older adults it does the opposite. It spikes, right around 3 in the morning. That is not a coincidence. That is biology. That cortisol spike is what is waking you up, and melatonin alone cannot do a single thing about any of that. What you need is something that supports the entire chain from the very beginning, and that is precisely what this seed does. Now, before I tell you the name, I want to be honest with you for a moment, because this is important. Not every case of insomnia is nutritional, and not every case is going to respond to what I am about to describe. There are 3 situations where you need medical evaluation, not a kitchen remedy. If you snore heavily and wake up choking or gasping for breath, that is sleep apnea. It is serious, and it requires a sleep study. If your legs feel restless and crawly the moment you try to lie still, that is restless leg syndrome, and it often points to an iron deficiency that needs blood work. And if you are waking up at 3 in the morning with a persistent feeling of dread, and you have lost interest in things you used to love, please speak to a clinician about depression. None of those 3 conditions are things to manage with a seed. They need real evaluation, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But if your insomnia is the kind most American adults experience, the racing thoughts, the light, fragmented sleep, the waking up at 3 and not being able to get back down, the waking up in the morning feeling like you never slept at all, then keep listening. The seed is Nigella sativa. You may know it by another name. In English, it is called black seed. In many American grocery stores, especially Middle Eastern and Indian markets, you might see it labeled as kalonji. It is small, charcoal-colored, slightly bitter with a faint heat to it. It looks almost like a small, dark sesame seed. You can find it at Middle Eastern groceries, Indian markets, health food stores, and online for around $10 to $15 per pound. That amount will last you several months. This is not a trendy supplement. This is a seed that has been in continuous medicinal use for over 3,000 years without interruption. Egyptian physicians used it for digestive problems, pain, and what they described as nervous fatigue, which is essentially what we would call anxiety and insomnia today. Avicenna in the 11th century wrote that black seed stimulates the body's energy and supports recovery from fatigue and low spirits. That was his way of saying it calms the nervous system and restores sleep. And modern research has now uncovered the reason why. Inside black seed is a compound called thymoquinone. This is the most studied active ingredient in the seed, and clinical research has shown it produces mild sedative effects, reduces anxiety, and most significantly for our purposes, it modulates GABA, which is the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. If you have ever heard of benzodiazepine sleeping pills, those medications work by targeting that exact same GABA pathway. Thymoquinone does the same thing gently, without creating dependency, and without the thick, heavy brain fog those medications leave you with the next morning. But that is only part of the picture. Black seed also contains a meaningful amount of tryptophan, which is the raw starting material for that entire serotonin and melatonin chain we discussed. It contains magnesium in a highly absorbable form, and magnesium is the key cofactor for over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, including the ones that convert tryptophan into serotonin and serotonin into melatonin. It also contains vitamin B6, zinc, thiamine, and a unique fatty acid profile that supports the function of brain cell membranes. This seed is not a sedative. It is not a sleeping pill. It is a complete nutritional support package specifically targeting the broken biochemistry that underlies insomnia in older adults. It supplies the raw materials. It activates the conversion enzymes. It gently supports the GABA pathway. And it helps cortisol come down at night instead of spiking. All 5 steps of the chain supported by 1 single teaspoon. A review published in Phytotherapy Research that analyzed dozens of human studies on Nigella sativa concluded it has measurable anxiety-reducing and mild sedative effects in clinical trials. Separate research has documented real improvements in sleep quality scores in adults using black seed daily over 4 to 8 weeks. This is not just ancient tradition anymore. It is ancient tradition that the laboratory has finally caught up to. Let me tell you about a woman I will call Margaret. 67 years old, retired school teacher, sharp and active, walked her dog every single morning. She sat down with me and said she had not slept through a full night in 3 years. She had gone through everything the pharmacy and supplement aisle had to offer. Melatonin at 3 milligrams, then 5, then 10. Valerian root capsules, magnesium glycinate, tart cherry juice, sleep meditations, a white noise machine, herbal teas. Every single one gave her either nothing at all or maybe 2 better nights before things went right back to where they were. She was exhausted in the deep way that only chronic sleep deprivation creates, where not just your body but your personality starts to wear thin. She started the protocol I am about to describe. The first 2 nights, nothing noticeable. By night 5, she fell asleep within 20 minutes instead of lying there for 2 hours. By the end of week 2, she was sleeping through until her alarm for the first time in years. She told me it felt like someone had turned a dial in her brain back to a setting she had forgotten existed. And the only thing that changed was 1 teaspoon of a $15 seed taken at the right time, in the right way. Now I am going to give you the exact protocol she used. Pause the video and take a screenshot if you want to keep this. The morning piece of this matters more than most people expect. Within 1 hour of waking up, get 15 minutes of natural outdoor sunlight directly on your face. Not through a window, not with sunglasses on. Real sunlight, real eyes, outside. This is not about vitamin D, this is about your circadian clock. Light hitting your retinas in the morning signals your brain to begin counting down to melatonin release 14 to 16 hours later. If you skip this step, you are essentially asking your sleep chemistry to fire without setting the timer. Walk to the mailbox and back. Sit on your front steps with your coffee. 5 minutes outside your own front door is enough. This single step amplifies everything else you do. The afternoon piece is one that most American adults underestimate, especially those over 60. No caffeine after 2 in the afternoon. Not coffee, not black tea, not green tea, not soda. Here is the reason this matters so much more for you than for a younger person. The half-life of caffeine, meaning the time it takes your body to clear half of it from your system, is significantly longer after 60 because your liver processes it more slowly. Coffee at 4 in the afternoon means your bloodstream is still carrying meaningful levels of caffeine at midnight. That alone is enough to prevent the deep sleep stages your body needs. This one change, just this one, is enough to meaningfully improve sleep in a large percentage of older adults, even before the seed ever enters the picture. In the evening, about 2 hours before bed, eat a normal-sized dinner and keep it moderate. The ideal composition is a normal portion of fish, chicken, or eggs with cooked vegetables and a complex carbohydrate like sweet potato, brown rice, or oats. That complex carbohydrate is not optional. It produces a small, gentle insulin response, and insulin is what opens the door for tryptophan to cross the blood-brain barrier. Without that signal, much of the tryptophan you have eaten will be outcompeted by other amino acids and never reach your brain at all. This is established neurochemistry. A very heavy late dinner loaded with red meat and large amounts of cheese can actually block tryptophan absorption and work directly against everything else in this protocol. Now the seed protocol itself. 45 minutes before you intend to go to bed, take 1 level teaspoon of raw, whole dark Nigella sativa seeds and chew them slowly for about 30 seconds. They are bitter and slightly peppery. That flavor is the thymoquinone, and you want it. Follow the seeds immediately with half a teaspoon of raw honey and half a cup of warm water. Not cold water, warm, roughly body temperature. The reason for warm over cold is specific. Warm liquid in the stomach activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch of your nervous system responsible for rest and digestion. Cold water can trigger a brief stress response that works against exactly what you are trying to create. The honey provides a small carbohydrate signal that helps tryptophan reach the brain. Both matter. After taking the seed, sit quietly. No phone in your hand, no news on the television, no scrolling. Read something calm or simply sit in low light. If chewing the whole seeds is unpleasant for you, grind 7 level teaspoons at a time in a coffee grinder. Store the powder in a small sealed jar in the refrigerator, and each night, mix 1 teaspoon of the powder into the warm honey water and drink it. The effect is identical. When you do go to bed, make sure your room is between 65 and 68 degrees. A cool room temperature is itself a biological signal to your body that it is time to sleep. Heavy blankets on top of you are completely fine, but the air in the room needs to be cool. A warm room will work against the seed regardless of everything else you do right. When buying the seed, look for raw, whole, dark seeds from a fresh source. Smell them before you use them. Fresh black seed smells faintly peppery and slightly bitter. If it smells like nothing, it has been heat treated or it has been sitting too long. Roasting destroys thymoquinone completely. That is the active compound. Destroyed seeds are just seeds with no benefit. Buy smaller quantities, store them in the refrigerator, and replenish regularly. Now the warnings. Black seed is food. and it is well tolerated by the overwhelming majority of adults. But 3 groups need to check with their prescriber before starting. If you take blood thinners including warfarin, apixaban, or clopidogrel, black seed has its own mild blood-thinning properties and could amplify your medication. Get clearance first. If you take blood pressure medication, black seed can lower blood pressure modestly on its own. For most people, that is a positive thing. But if your pressure is already being tightly managed on medication, it can sometimes cause dizziness when you stand up. Monitor your blood pressure during the first 2 weeks. If you take diabetes medication, black seed can lower fasting blood glucose. Again, generally beneficial, but watch for signs of low blood sugar, especially in the first few weeks of use. For everyone outside those 3 categories, which is the large majority of people watching this, 1 teaspoon nightly is well within the range of safe use that has stood for centuries. Alcohol in the evening is also worth addressing. 1 drink with dinner occasionally is not going to ruin the protocol, but a glass of wine at 9 at night will essentially cancel out the seed. They cannot do their work together. Choose one or the other. If you are currently on a prescription sleep medication, do not stop taking it on your own. Continue your prescription exactly as written. Layer this protocol on top of it, and after 4 weeks have a conversation with your prescribing doctor about whether the dose can be gradually reduced. That is a medical decision to make together, not alone. Here is your 5-step action plan starting today. First, order or go pick up Nigella sativa seeds tomorrow, whole, raw, dark, from a fresh source. Second, tomorrow morning before anything else, get outside in real sunlight for 15 minutes. Start anchoring that circadian rhythm before the seeds even arrive. Third, starting tomorrow afternoon, cut all caffeine after 2 p.m. Fourth, when your seeds arrive, begin the protocol. 1 teaspoon chewed slowly, followed by warm water with a small spoon of raw honey, 45 minutes before bed, 14 consecutive nights without skipping. Fifth, if you take blood thinners, blood pressure medication, or any diabetes medication, speak with your prescriber before you start. For everyone else, this is food, and you can begin as soon as you have it in your hands. I want to ask you something right now, and I want you to actually do it. Scroll down to the comments, pause this video if you need to, and write your age and the city or state you are watching from. I read every single comment, and I mean that. Knowing who is in this audience shapes every video I make after this one. The sleep needs of a 63-year-old in Phoenix are genuinely different from those of a 74-year-old in rural Maine or a 70-year-old in South Florida. Tell me who you are. Help me make the next video for you specifically. And if this video gave you something you have been looking for, something that finally explains why your nights have been the way they have been, send it to one person. A husband or wife who has been quietly suffering for years. A parent who lies awake and never complains about it. A friend who has tried everything and given up. You may have just handed them the answer they have been searching for since their 50s. What you have heard tonight is not new information. It is 3,000 years old. What is new is that modern biochemistry can now explain every single step of why it works. There is no profit in a $15 bag of seeds, no patent, no billing code, no pharmaceutical sales rep flying out to talk about it. The system has no financial reason to tell you this exists, so somebody has to. That is what this channel is for. Subscribe, hit like, and help this reach 100,000. The person lying awake at 3 in the morning tonight needs to find this video. You can be the reason they do. Sleep well tonight. I will see you in the next one.